VikesNow. I am Dustin Baker. Getting off the ground here. We are getting close to exiting the bye week. We have a lot of things in the Vikings orbit right now that I'm going to talk to Sal Spice about. We're mainly going to do most important Vikings, but right now we are, I guess, patiently awaiting a clear prognosis for Aaron Jones, because we learned in London he's the straw that stirs the drink on offense, which we kind of knew, but it was vividly confirmed. We got TJ Hawkinson coming back either next Sunday, probably the Thursday after that, which should take the offense to new heights. Not sure on Dalton Reisner. He should be back. Ed Ingram feels like a benchable candidate. Those are the items going on in the Vikings orbit. And with that, I welcome Sal Spice, who has her own show on the First and Skull platform. How are you, Sal?
Hey, I'm doing great, Dustin. How are you?
Not bad. What did your we're the world is probably
we have to wish you a happy birthday first.
41 over here. She came with props.
I know. 40. I thought this was a noise-making blowtorch, but it's not. It's just so I'm sorry, but
so it's thought that counts.
Happy birthday, Dustin.
Yes, I am 41 today, October 11th, born at 7:11 a.m. Going out to dinner with my extended family tonight at a steakhouse. It will be marvelous. What I was saying was the world has probably moved on from the Vikings dub over the Jets in London. Got their head coach fired. But give me some of your kind of keynote takeaways from that game. Kind of felt like the Packer game all over again with a little less of a lead. What do you got?
Yeah, it wasn't a pretty game at all. And I think the weather had a huge impact on that as well. And yeah, it wasn't pretty, but Aaron Rodgers self-destructed. So we prevailed and we got a coach fired again. I mean, I was just thinking about this a couple of days ago. 2 years ago, this defense got Daniel Jones a long-term lucrative contract as a quarterback. And 2 years later, they're getting coaches fired in week 5. So that says a lot about the growth of this team. But yeah, it wasn't pretty, but they found a way to win. Good teams find a way to do that. And I have no complaints about it. Again, gives us some more stuff to oh my God, I can't talk. Gives us some more things to critique, which the first 3 weeks we complained we didn't have any. So
it's kind of funny that when the Vikings find the gritty way to win, we question, all right, does this mean bottom's going to fall out like it did in 2016? When other good teams do it, it's like, that's the way it happens. You know, pull yourself up. That's the way it goes. And then another thing of note on Daniel Jones, when that theory circulated early in 2023, the 2023 offseason, it kind of started as a joke because we're like, all right, Daniel Jones. And then it turned out to be absolutely true. That's what will always be so marvelous about that, is it was a fringe theory that said this guy probably isn't as good as he is against a Donatell defense. And then although he played decent last week, he does not look like he deserves whatever $40 million per year he got. And we heard all about it too on Hard Knocks, the offseason edition, where they weren't in love with him, but they thought they owed it to him. They dressed it up in injury concerns. But yeah, Daniel Jones, what are they, 2-3 right now, the Giants?
Yeah, which it's crazy. They won last week with no neighbors. And like everybody counted them out and they still won. But yeah, they're not good. And this team went in there, and you've talked a lot about the fluky wins and that how those haven't been there. And this London game, while it was close and it wasn't pretty, it still wasn't a fluke. They took care of business. They found a way to win when the offense was struggling. And so, I mean, my hat's off to them. I'm impressed.
Yeah, Will Riker notably did the trick. I think beyond the shadow of a doubt, the MVP of the game. I mean, Andrew Van Ginkel would probably say, hey, me, for his pick 6, but the comfort level that we have suddenly accrued with Will Riker is to die for. And I've been telling my friend Yannick Eckhart, who joins this show about once a month, I want him to miss one here because I want him to come back to earth so we don't have to channel any 1998 bullshit. I want him to miss an ordinary one and we can be like, all right, the guy isn't a cyborg.
Your theories this year are very interesting. They're taking me by surprise often. You think they're going to lose to the Jets. You don't care if they lose to the Packers. Now you want Will to start missing kicks. I get where you're coming from on that, but I'd rather him just he's so cool. He's just such a cool cat. I've never called a guy that before, but that's how I just describe him as. I don't know. He's not a Gary Anderson vibe to me.
No, he couldn't be more opposite than Gary Anderson in terms of his presentation. That guy felt like a grandpa that season when we were all kids, and Will Riker now feels like our son. So
exactly. Yeah.
And on the Giants, I got to pound home that after week 1, the narrative was, well, they're historically bad. No wonder the Vikings beat them. Nobody thought they were historically bad before week 1, and now they have shown that they're not this piss poor team. So as much as the sounding board after week 1 was, well, of course the Vikings beat the Giants, they're not a miserable team.
Right. I know. And it's funny how the narrative on teams as the season goes on like that change so drastically. We always go in thinking, oh, this team is absolutely terrible. They're going to be awful. As we did with this team, at least I did, they're going to just be middle of the road. They're not going to do anything. And then you see them play 2 weeks or so and you're like, oh yeah, I was completely wrong about that. And that is, I mean, I don't think that the Giants are going to be good by any means or get into the playoffs, but they're definitely not this awful dumpster fire that we attributed them to be.
No, they're not. And I knew it in the moment, mainly because of the roster talent on the defensive line and the neighbors we knew would be good. And Dable, I think, is a pretty decent head coach. I don't know if he'll survive this season with a 7-10, 8-9 record. But all right, let's hop into your top 5 most important Vikings players. I was asked to do this myself on a radio show this week. It was a challenging exercise. So we're going to start at the bottom of the list. So 5 would be the least important on the most important list. And when we get to number 1, that'll be the guy they can't live without. So number 5, most important Viking, who is it?
Okay, I'm having a tough time ranking these because they're all important, I think. But I'll go with Blake Cashman for number 5. Just coming in, as a free agent, Kwesi and Flores did a great job at getting the free agent market this year and building up that defense. So, he has the most tackles on the team, tied for passes defended. He's really made a huge difference in the pass coverage game. And yeah, he's made a huge difference, I think.
Oh, he absolutely has. And it's also a testament that this free agent class just can't miss.
Yes.
Like every single guy, you'd be hard pressed to find one guy who's mid that's like, oh, we didn't really need him. I mean, unless you want to get real nitpicky and like Trent Sherfield or whatever, but he's playing decent. And so Cashman, Eden Prairie native, his story is so cool because he grew up a Viking fan. And then let's see, it started with the Jets, went to the Texans, and then when free agency came about, he came back to the Vikings. And then within the first 3 weeks, played his old team. The Vikings crushed them. Did you read the story about how Brian Flores found him?
No.
Oh, that came out about, I think it was right before the Texans game. Brian Flores' daughter goes to, I think, plays sports with a linebackers coach at the U of M where Cashman went.
Mm-hmm.
And offhandedly, he said, if he ever comes up on your radar, you should check out Blake Cashman. The guy can ball. And Flores, would you know it, works for the Vikings, and Cashman was going to be a free agent. And it was that little tip that led to Cashman coming to the Vikings. So Brian Flores' daughter can claim credit because it was her sports team and the two dads conversing like in the backdrop.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is. So
yeah, I was not familiar. I was not familiar with his game, even being from Minnesota. I didn't know anything about him. So I love him.
We'll see how our lists differ. I have Jonathan Grenard at number 5. I believe, depending on the metric you use, whether it's PFF or like Pro Football Reference, he either leads the league in pressures or is near the top. And this guy was tasked with a very, at least in Vikings fans' frame of reference, you got to replace Danielle Hunter. And so far, so good in terms of effectuating quarterback pressures. So if I was going to rank players, which I am, I'm going to go with Jonathan Grenard at number 5. Who's your number 4?
Okay. I think I'm going to mess up this list and come out one short, but I'll go for 4. I think I'm going to say Will Reichard at number 4 because you don't have to worry about him in anything. Like those last 2 games that could have came down to missing a field goal would have determined who won the game. We don't have to worry about him missing extra points. He's 16 for 16. Whereas somehow that one season, it didn't come back to bite Greg Josephs on that, but it certainly could have. So I'm going to go with him just because you don't have to worry about him. He's like 9 for 9 on field goals, his 5th game ever in London. It's raining. He's 3 for 3. So he probably deserves to be higher than number 4. However, because we have somehow gotten through by the skin of our teeth on kickers the last couple of years with their mistakes, I'm just going to keep him at 4.
So when the draft shook down that Saturday, I believe it was Saturday, April 27th, were you one of the ones that said, why are we drafting a kicker? You can get those afterward.
Yes, I hate drafting specialists. Absolutely. And it's probably, I think I'm coming around on that, but I think Rick Spielman, I was always a huge critic of his, and he often did that. He drafted a punter. He obviously drafted, Blair Walsh, who at first was good, but that obviously didn't work out. Then they drafted Daniel Carlson, who they kept for 2 weeks. So I've just never really been a fan of it. But then that's probably the wrong thought process for me to have my whole life, because we've never had consistency at kicker either, and it does end up becoming a very important position in key games and determining the outcome of very important games, especially divisional games, playoff games. So I am changing my mind about that.
No, that's fair. I think on the surface, you wonder, or you can say, just get them after the draft. There's a plethora of them, which I totally agree with. But the day of, thinking that Saturday, I was thinking, like, how do you get the best one? Like,
Yeah.
if you're not willing to spend one of your picks, how do you get the best one? And evidently, hopefully this guy sticks around for a decade plus. The Vikings viewed him as the best one. And so far, so long as he doesn't follow a Blair Walsh-like path, because Walsh was wonderful too to start, it feels like it was worth it. And at least in these 5 games, when you don't have that same dread when a kicker comes up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope that he's just going to continue to build on this confidence. I don't see why he wouldn't. Like you just said, I mean, he's going to miss one eventually. So it's going to come down to how he responds to that. But I think he has a swagger and an aura about him that I don't think I've ever seen in a kicker before. And not only a Vikings kicker. I mean, I don't remember seeing a kicker in the league that has the swagger that he has and the charisma that he has. So maybe he won't be victim of those same, head games that the kickers get into.
I love that and on top of the dependability and the accuracy, it's really awesome that we have a guy. Oh, hey, well, we got to trot this guy out from 60, 61. And we somehow to this point have found a guy that we don't have to be like, well, this ain't happening, because we've had good kickers in the past at times with good stretches that just disqualified from trying it that far. But right now the Vikings have a total package. My number 4 is Andrew Van Ginkel. A steal of a deal of a free agent signing, 2 years, $20 million. In fact, when the Vikings signed him and Grenard, I believe it was on the same day, it felt like, oh, cool, this is their solution. And then, by the way, they went and got Dallas Turner as well to get even deeper at edge rusher. But Andrew Van Ginkel's seemingly identical pick sixes week 1 and week 5. The most recent one against the Jets was like the difference in the game, and the one against the Giants set the tone. So the way that Van Ginkel is all over his versatility. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah in May, I believe, called him a Mr. Do-Everything because he can drop back in pass coverage. He can stop the run. And, man, I hope this guy sticks around, too, because he flies around all over the place. He's my number 4. Who's your number 3?
He's going to be my number 3.
Oh, sweet.
He's so versatile. He, 3 sacks. He's got the 2 pick sixes. And it really is amazing that you just referenced that this guy was available on that type of a deal. You would think that somebody who's this talented would have gotten a multi-year deal for more money. So I'm surprised that he even was available for a 2-year deal. But yeah, he's made a huge impact, and I think it's just going to continue to build on that. And maybe he'll even have another pick 6 next week against Detroit. You don't know, but it's very possible. Him, and then I'll do an honorable mention to Stephon Gilmore for how he ended the game with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I had Gilmore on my list at number 6. So, and then I wanted to have Darisaw higher, but for some reason, even for me, offensive linemen just kind of feel like, well, he's doing what he should do. But in terms of guys I wouldn't want to lose, Darisaw would be in the top 3 of my list. So those are my honorable mentions. On Van Ginkel, he notably also has like Viking long blonde hair, so he fits in. I think the only reason that he was affordable at a budget price, he was coming off that Liz Frank injury, and maybe general managers were skittish about it. And 2023 was his first outstanding season where his PFF was like in the 90s. So maybe some other GMs thought it was a mirage. But I messaged, again, Yannick Eckhart during the game that interception that he is starting, that feels like his move, like LeBron's chase down block. Like, you bat it down near the line of scrimmage and you take it for a pick 6. So we shall see if he can victimize Jared Goff on it.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see you mention the hair. I'm very excited to see this team with the new camaraderie that there is, the chemistry, how fun these guys' personalities are meshing. The Halloween party. Halloween party. Harrison Smith's annual Halloween party. I cannot wait to see what they dress up as. Are they going to be coordinated? Are they each going to do their own thing? Because he's got a lot of potential with that hairstyle of what he could do.
Yeah, limitless, in fact. And we're
Mhm.
only about 3 weeks away from a verdict there. At number 3 on my list might take a little heat. I have Sam Darnold. The only reason that he's not a little bit higher is my theory that Kevin O'Connell can probably make a lot of quarterbacks work on this current team, especially with the NFL's top-ranked defense. One of my, I guess, bold theories is the Vikings would be 3-2 right now if Nick Mullins was the quarterback, about 3-2. And so, although we've seen a slight regression from Darnold in the last 2 games. The Jets defense really did a number on the pass catchers and Darnold personally. I have Darnold at number 3 as the most important Viking. I don't think the team would go to absolute hell if Nick Mullins had to come in and quarterback. Who's your number 2?
Well, the only reason I think it might go to absolute hell is he might get somebody killed, like Aaron Jones. Um, like Aaron Jones when he had his one pass the other day. So I will go with Aaron Jones at my number 2 because he wouldn't have been this high on my list, I don't think, if we didn't see the huge impact that it had on the offense when he left the game last week. The offense was completely out of sync. They couldn't get anything going. It really stuck out like a sore thumb how dependent they are on him for that offense to flow. So he's going to be my number 2.
Yeah, he is my number 2 as well, and I'll just give the little speech about it. I was skeptical. Actually, I was curious as to why Kwesi Adafo-Mensah would sign a running back who was going to be 30. It didn't seem like the Kwesi thing to do. But Aaron Jones ended the season with the Packers on an incredible hot streak, and it continued. Now we hope that it was more than just 5 games for the Vikings. But what he does every time his fingers touch the ball, he gets about 6 yards. Like, no bullshit, either a
Mhm.
reception or a rushing attempt. And that changes everything. Because I'd have to pull Madison's stats last year. I'm guessing it's close to half of that. And that really adds up in a football game. And so Aaron Jones softens everything up. And I don't know that Ty Chandler will be able to do it to that clip. I have faith that Ty
Mhm.
Chandler would rebound after a stinky game in London, but I don't think it'll be quite as effective
No.
as Aaron Jones has been. But yeah, that is why I think that's the top storyline right now for the Vikings, is whether or not Aaron Jones is week to week is an honest, like, week to week, and whether or not, if we have to look back at this in like January or February and be like, oh, remember those 5 sweet games from Aaron Jones like the Packers had, and then the injury set in. That's what I really don't want to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I was same with you when Kwesi signed him. It was kind of peculiar because I didn't work. Okay, so we're going to be investing a lot of resources into running back, which the last theme in probably the decade of the NFL is you don't need to spend a lot of money at that position. You don't need to give up a lot of draft capital at that position. And so I was a little bit confused by it, but I definitely wasn't complaining because
Mm-hmm.
after the experiment with Alexander Madison becoming RB1 was an epic failure, which I was 100% incorrect about. I was just like, okay, that's fine. But I don't think that they have the depth at running back that they need or that we would like. And so now I am not even a little, I am nervous about it if it is a true week to week or not.
Well,
And I don't know what the options are to improve that either.
the good news there is so they already know internally if it's going to be a big deal, or if he's just back with the Lions, and that's that. But they'll have 3.5 weeks from right now to explore the trade market if they truly believe they're a Super Bowl contender, which I bet they do.
Mhm.
Miles Sanders is probably expendable in Carolina because Jonathan Brooks is coming back. The Broncos have about 4 decent running backs. Damian Pierce on the Texans is like RB2, RB3. So they have options if they aren't sold on Chandler. So we get to your number 1 here. Somebody got snubbed. Who is your number 1?
Yes, and my apologies to Sam Darnold. This wasn't intentional. I apparently just can't make a list. Justin Jefferson is definitely my number
Mhm.
1 because I do not think that Sam Darnold would have even a fraction of the success that he's had this year without Justin and the catches that he's able to make, the plays that he's able to extend, and the coverage that he demands on him that's making the other receivers open for Darnold. Think he's making it significantly easier for him to be able to come into this offense and have this awesome redemption season.
Yeah, Jefferson. It was funny that I think by Vikings fan standard, he had a poor game in London, then he still had 92 receiving yards. I got a chuckle out of that. Yeah, his let's see, was it against the 49ers when he scored the 97-yard touchdown?
Mhm.
That turned out to be the difference maker. They won by 6, and at the time it kind of proved that Sam Darnold had the dog in him to throw it that far, and O'Connell to be that gutsy. And then against the Packers, when things were spiraling out of control, Jefferson had the catch they had to review on the sidelines, which extended the drive, which I believe Reichert hit a field goal to extend the lead to 2 scores, which felt mandatory. So yeah, Jefferson, it's cool that the Vikings have a superstar who makes mucho dinero as a wide receiver, and nobody complains about that contract.
Oh, no. No, give him more money if you have to. Because he makes everybody better. He makes everyone better. He opens up so many opportunities for the rest of the offense. And it's the amount of confidence that he has to give Sam Darnold to come in there, know that you can throw to him. It's intangible, I think.
Yeah, my honorable mentions, because I kind of left out the offensive line. Brian O'Neill, just absolutely consistent, always stable on the right side. And then Cameron Bynum and Josh Metellus are honorable mentions. I think they're kind of the same guy in terms of production, so we can't really give one of them credit to be in a top 5 list. Blake Cashman made it for me. And then I said this on a different show earlier this week, that Stephon Gilmore makes it so that the Vikings cornerback room is okay. If he wasn't on this team, I'm guessing we'd have a lot of beef with the cornerbacks at this moment. But his durability, foremost, his experience, the guy has won a Super Bowl, which might become important here in a couple of months. Gilmore maybe even should have got into my top 5 based on his playmaking to date.
The only corner that I have beef with is a Caleb Evans.
Yeah.
But without Stephon Gilmore, it is scary to think about what that room maybe would have looked like. And that would have definitely been their weakness on the team as a whole, not just the defense. And it probably would have been exploited, and these games would have been a lot closer.
Yeah, that's what makes me nervous is they're one injury away at cornerback CB, and that's going to happen like within the next 12 weeks. And then they're going to have to either try out Dwight McGlothern, who I like, or Caleb Evans, who I'm a little skittish about. So that leads me to believe that somebody from the Flores yesteryear, either from the Dolphins or the Patriots days, like Jonathan Jones, could be gettable for some cornerback depth, because you'll want that if you're going to affect a playoff push. All right, Sally, did we leave anything out?
I was just going to say, they've been very lucky with the injury bugs so far. I mean, obviously we've had the Aaron Jones things, which sucks, but every injury that they've had have been minor, not season ending, not out for extended games. So it's like the bye being so early. In general, I dislike it. It's good for Sam to get reset, hopefully for Aaron Jones to come back so that offense can start working in sync again. But hopefully, I mean, we just got to pray for this consistency at the lack of injuries, that it's not going to come down the stretch when the bye was a month and a half before.
Yeah, we got kind of spoiled by some late buys when you like to rest to get ready for, the postseason, but this year it happened serendipitously for Aaron Jones' recovery. All right, Sally, we leave anything out on this Friday bye week edition?
I don't think so, Dustin. Just happy birthday. I hope you have a great one.
Absolutely. And then we're going to, like I said, we're going out to eat as a big, giant extended family. And notably, when you and I talk next Friday, no matter what the Lions do against the Cowboys, that game is going to be humongous in the scope of Vikings regular season history. You got any early thoughts on that?
Oh man, no, I'm really excited for it. When the season started, I thought Detroit is probably going to sweep this series. I didn't think that they probably, I mean, obviously you always have a shot in a divisional game. They can always be a coin flip, but I thought by the time we get to this part of the season, these tickets are going to be dirt cheap. And I like watching the Lions in general, so I was interested in watching it for different reasons. And now it's like, wow, could have a huge impact on the rest of the season, on who wins the division, on maybe who gets a first round bye, and it's only going to be on October 20th. And it's just so hard to believe that this all changed so quickly.
Yeah, whoever wins that game, like to me, it's mostly doesn't matter what happens between Lions and Cowboys for the scope of Vikings Lions, but whoever wins Vikings Lions in 9 days, that team will be the 1A, 1B Super Bowl front runner from the NFC next to the 49ers, who we eternally think will figure it out.
I'm hoping it gets flexed. I think it's unlikely, but I'm hoping.
I think it's too late for that.
No, they changed the rules in 2023. I did a deep dive, but they can only change it 2 times between week 5 and week 10. But I don't think they will, because right now, well, for a few reasons. First of all, they rarely do it this early in the year, but then also right now the Sunday night game is Pittsburgh and the Jets, and they always want Aaron Rodgers in prime time. So it's probably not going to happen, but I wish it would, just for a atmosphere. We already know it's going to be electric. It's going to be crazy. But if you have that game at 7:00, it's going to be even, 5 times more.
Yeah, Aaron versus a storied franchise in the Steelers is probably hard to flex out of unless they're both in the toilet, and they're not. All right, Sally, we'll talk to you in 1 week, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, later.
All right, bye.